Have you ever wondered whether you actually need to do all the gardening jobs that you'll see in the to-do lists? Well, maybe you don't have to. I've just visited Veddw, a beautiful 2-acre garden in Wales, created by writer Anne Wareham and photographer Charles Hawes, entirely themselves, and they maintain it by letting go of any unnecessary jobs. They do have a professional to trim their amazing hedges, but otherwise they do all the work themselves, and the way they approach it is very transferable to smaller gardens. For example, when Charles mows the lawn, he doesn't move the tables and chairs in the middle of the lawn. He just mows round them, and the buttercups grow up and it looks charming, but people still sit there. It doesn't stop them being used.
It's Alexandra here from the Middlesized Garden YouTube channel and blog.
Anne's books include the Deckchair Gardener, where she goes into all the things she doesn't do, like she doesn't turn her compost heap, and she doesn't wash her pots, and she doesn't lift and divide plants. So I'll put a link to that in the description below, and also to her Substack, where she goes into the creation of Veddw, including a beautiful reflective pool which mirrors the hedges as they come down the hill. So if you're aiming for more garden, less work, let's see how Charles and Anne create maximum impact with minimum effort. So Anne, you've got a really fantastic garden here. It's pretty stunning, actually. And you've created it all yourself in 38 years. And you also have found a lot of ways of minimising the work of keeping it up, because it is 2 acres. So could you tell me, firstly, how you created it?
Well, it was 2 fields, one on either side of the house. There was never a master plan. We started out with a veg plot because Charles insisted we should grow veg, which was nonsense. So the first thing you might say about making gardening easier is we gave up growing veg and fruit, apart from some apples. So that's major, because a lot of the difficult work in gardens is growing veg. And it's just, some of it, you may have noticed, is still being made. We're still making it.
And what gave you the idea to do so many wonderful hedges?
I don't know. It must have been the old Sissinghurst-Hidcote thing of enclosed spaces. And, I'm just greedy. I liked the idea of lots of different gardens. So if you have lots of compartments made by hedges, you've got the possibility of lots of different gardens, according to what inspires you at the time.
In terms of shaping lovely solid hedges like this, I can see you've got beech and yew. What plants would you recommend?
Well, we have hornbeam as well. We had the garden full of box, which was mostly gone, as you know, from box blight, which was quite tragic for us. Beech and hornbeam probably need cutting twice a year. The yew is slower. But in the past, I've managed to kill some of the yew hedge. The one thing it doesn't like is excess water. Water comes down our hill, basically. So we had to include drainage down to the lawn.
And one of the things that makes the garden work so well is this sort of mixture of wildness and also the structure of the hedges. So can you tell me how you sort of manage the wildness?
Well, part of the wildness is from using very vigorous plants. And one of the things that no British gardener will imitate is that we grow what are garden thugs in most people's books, and even permit ground elder to live with us, which it does. And when we first started, which was 38 years ago, none of this was acceptable. The slightly wild effect that you get from using very robust plants that are fighting it out together. But that's basically what happens. And it figures for me in terms of design too, because if there's one thing that I'm not fond of in a garden, it's lots of bitty plants sitting around the place. So, thuggish plants.
What would you say have been the most successful thugs?
Persicaria, because we are on the wet side of the country, and they do like campanula and good old geraniums, but those are the two that stand.
And I see you've got lots of ferns.
Yeah.
Did you plant those, or did you just let them grow?
Both. It's fern country, being in the west.
And the other thing is lovely foliage contrast, some dark reds and light greens. And so what have you found works there?
Well, we've got the old cliche of silver, and people call it purple, don't they? It's a dark brown foliage, like the maples and cotinus.
And I've noticed you've let ivy grow up the walls of the house as well.
Oh, yeah. The RHS have eventually come around to recommending it. It does keep the walls warmer and drier.
And there's no problems with it digging its little roots into your walls.
They don't. The roots are in the ground, so they don't actually do that. Though if you remove it, you get the little pads that they've adhered to the walls. So if you're going to do this, you need to know that you're going to let it stay. Basically, you treat it like a hedge. You have to cut it annually like you would cut a hedge. It's getting a bit thick up there, for example, but that will get cut back and keep it tidy.
Yes. And in terms of the big jobs that people are always being asked to do, what are the ones that you would say gardeners can get away without doing?
Well, the one I really couldn't face originally, and people do quite cheerfully, it seems, is cutting everything down in the autumn and carting it off to the compost heap to rot and then bring back again, which is, it seemed to me at the time I couldn't cope with doing it, and I've never done that. And what I do is I cut all this foliage down. I would tend to cut in the autumn, apart from a few things that get left till the spring, and the grasses always get left till the spring. But they just get cut down in pieces with a hedge trimmer or a strimmer and left in situ. And the benefits for the soil are enormous.
Yes, I think it's called chop and drop in the States.
It is now, yeah. It was Ruth Stout who was the first person that I came across who was doing this, mulching like mad, which is where I learned the value of mulch 38 years ago, whatever it was.
And what other sort of big jobs do you think that we can avoid doing or simplify?
Oh, well, weeding if you use vigorous plants. I mean, yeah, I mean, after this point in the year, I won't be doing very much weeding.
Because there's no space for the weeds to spread.
Yes, basically. And as it's become more fashionable to be a bit more tolerant of weeds, then that's got easier too. I can't tolerate garden edging, you know, that line round the lawn that people do with a little tool. I it's not just the extra work. I hate the look of it. I like plants to sit together happily, and the idea of separating them with a cut down the edge of the lawn and out of the way just really offends my eye. So that's a major job that lots of people could give up doing. One way that I've done that is growing the alchemilla all the way down this edge here, because those just you can cut right up to the alchemilla when you mowing the lawn, and when the alchemilla's flowered, we trim that down and it comes back together with the geraniums.
And how have you created the paths and things around here, is it?
I think it's commonly called hogging, but what we've got from the local quarry is what's called, I think it's 25 to dust. It's about you need to get a small gravel, but include the quarry dust, the dust that it comes up with. Now, I don't know what other quarries produce, but basically, locally, that's clay. So the paths have all been laid with this gravel to dust, and after a bit of rain and walking on it solidifies because the clay makes it solid. And I can't recommend this for a minute because health and safety would go bonkers, but the paths coming down from the top there are all made like that and solid as you walk down. The one difficulty that we have with our paths is we get moss. And last year when it was very wet, all the paths grew moss. It's beautiful, I love moss, but it's lethal on paths, so we do have a headache with that.
And how do you decide where to position a seat? Because there's a seat in every one of your little mini gardens here.
That's been according to where you want the view, I think. But I must say something about the seats, you know, because I designed them myself, and they're made basically by putting some, what they call breeze blocks for legs, wooden across and back that's also made of breeze blocks. And the great virtue for people like thee and me is that you can do them low enough so that your feet are on the ground and deep enough so that you're sitting comfortably, being able to lean back properly. And in spite of the fact that they're rectangular like that, with the solid, uncushioned surface mostly, they're extraordinarily comfortable. Well, it is for women.
Well, men feel that they're a little bit kind of low down.
I don't think so. I mean, men just put their, you stretch your legs out. I don't know why we get so many seats that's so too high.
Yes.
Because it's not a problem to stretch your legs, is it?
Yes, I interviewed Mark Lane, who's the garden designer who is in a wheelchair, And he said one of the things people forget is that everyone needs a slightly different height of seat in a garden, whereas in a house, you've got lots of different height seats usually anyway.
Yeah.
Whereas in a garden, they're all one height. So,
Right, yeah.
Which is, but of course, if you're making your own and they're...
I made them suit me, which is actually how I made the garden, to suit me.
So what's your next project?
My project, basically, I suppose, is actually refining it all, if that doesn't sound... But I think one of the most important things about making a garden over time is you plant things, you can see how they work together, what's happening, and then see what you might add or change so that, for example, they're just going over, but there's Euphorbia Fireglow in the front garden. And this year I added some purple allium. It was fantastic. The contrast is brilliant. It's just making those, looking at the garden, thinking about the garden and seeing what might just shine it up a bit. And everywhere I can be doing that.
Veddw is open to the public in the summer, and they also accept coach parties and garden clubs, so I'll put a link to that in the description below. And low work gardening is often very environmentally friendly because it minimises the use of resources. So if you're interested in eco-friendly garden design, then don't miss this video coming up next. And thank you for watching. Goodbye.